Hey guys, welcome to today's class. Have fun.
Hello class, welcome to today's lesson. Our topic for today will be centered on correction of errors. Now, when we talk of correction of error, it's a broad topic in accounting and it's an interesting topic. For you to understand this, you have to know your double entry principle. And you know that every every debit entry requires a corresponding credit entry. We know from our double entry principle. Now, when we talk about correction of error refers to the rectification of a mistake caused by a transaction that was recorded incorrectly or omitted. So we learned from our previous final account that after performing all these entries, the double entry, we have the try balance, it all has to balance. But in this situation, one or two errors might have occurred, and we are here to capture those errors and overcome it. So it will be that such balance will not be able to agree. So we have to know how to go about it. So we've said, so we have two types of errors. One, error that do not affect the try balance, and errors that affect the agreement of the try balance. Now let's go to the errors that do not affect the try balance, and we have various types of errors. We have errors of omission, errors of commission, we have errors of transposition, and many more. So we will take them one by one, and we will also try to explain and understand, so that whenever we meet such problem, we will be able to solve it. So when you encounter such a problem, three things have to come in mind. One is what should have been the double entry. So after reading the problem, you have to know your double entry principle. You have to know where to debit, where to credit. And you know that a debit entry has a corresponding credit entry, and likewise. And the second one is what has happened or what has occurred. Now, what has occurred is the error that we want, or we have been able to highlight, or we have been able to discovered. And the last one is how to correct it, which is what the correction of errors. So as I said, when we are able to do all these three, we will be able to solve any question pertaining to correction of errors. So suspense account comes in when we extract a try balance and it does not balance. We put the difference temporarily on an account, and that is what we call suspense accounts. So until further investigations are done, that we will be able to know the correct class of accounts to put such a figure, we will have to lodge them in the suspense accounts. Class, let's quickly start from errors of omission. So we have the types of errors. So types of errors, we have one, error of omission. Now, this type of error happens when you forget to enter a transaction in the books. Yes, you may forget to enter an invoice you've paid or the sale of a service. And this is mostly done when you use your petty cash to pay for expenses. Most of the times you forget to record it. So example is when a copywriter buys a new business laptop but forgets to enter the purchase in the books. So this is one type of error that we have to take notes. Now, another example is when a cash sale of $100 was not recorded. So an error has been detected here. We also have to know that errors that do not affect the trial balance mostly do not involve suspense accounts, because we know there are various corresponding entries. We already know them. So there's no need for you to lodge them in a suspense account. Then later, after further investigation, you will be able to know the correct entry it should go. No, it's not like that. So here, for example, error of omission, it has not been recorded at all. So a cash sale of $100 was not recorded. So you know that the cash accounts will definitely be debited with the $100, and its corresponding entry, which is the sales, will be credited. So when you are to correct this error, you just have to open your two accounts, which is the cash account, then the dollar sign, the dollar sign, so we have $100, so which is $100 of sale, and we have the sales accounts, and you will credit it in cash, with cash. So something like this. Another type of error is the errors of principle. The incorrectly using of accounting principles. This is where the accounting rules are being violated, and the errors of principle we know do not meet the generally accepted accounting principle, which is GAAP. We also have to know that errors of principle can also be known as an input error. Now let's look at this example. A non-current asset purchase of $1,000 has been debited to the repair expense account rather than an asset account. You know that a non-current asset should not in any way be treated as an expense account, and this is where a non-current asset, which is known as a fixed asset, has been in a way treated as an expense account, which is a different class of accounts from asset accounts. And we also have a personal expenses are accidentally recorded as business expenses in the book. We know that personal expenses should be separate and different from the business expenses. So assuming I'm a sole proprietorship, and whereby I have my own business, my personal expenses should not in a way be included in my business expenses. Another type of error is transposition errors. In other books, we call it error of original entry. Yeah. So when you see a transposition errors or error of original entry, you shouldn't be confused. And this is when two digits are reverted or transposed. Now, we can also say that the correct double entry has been made, but with the wrong amount. So let me give you an example where a cash sales of $76 has been recorded as $67. This is an example of transposition or error of original entry. Another type of error is error of commission. And this is very simple. This is where a transaction has been recorded in the wrong account. So we also have the subsidiary entries, and these are transactions that aren't recorded correctly. This mistake is only discovered during a bank reconciliation. So an example is an invoice is entered in accounts receivable as $10,000 instead of $1,000. This is a typical example of a subsidiary entries. We also have the compensation error, where two different errors have been made which cancel each other. So example is a rent of bill of $1,002 has been debited to the rent account as $1,004, and a casting error on the sales account has resulted in sales being overstated by $200. Let's be a bit practical here. So since compensation error is an accounting error that offsets another error, let's see an example. For an example, if advertising charges paid $1,000 is debited in the advertisement account as 1,005, and the interest received $2,000 is credited in the interest account as 2,500, then the excess debit of 500 in advertising account is set off against the excess credits in the interest account. So this is a typical example of a compensation error, and in our next video we will dive deep and deep and deep into this conversation, because this is kind of pragmatic problem that we have to illustrate a lot of examples for you to understand. We want to commit the error of complete reversal entry. Here we will know that every cash has a debit balance, and creditors would definitely have the credit balance. In which case, or in the normal case, this is what comes in mind. But if it comes in mind, it is a totally complete reversal entry. It's an error. The correct transaction should be this: you have to debit the creditors balance, because the cash has been paid to the creditors. So the moment you debit the creditors balance who is receiving, then the cash has to get a corresponding credit entry. So this is the normal thing which comes in mind when you meet a problem like this, so I will give you an example for you to understand this particular type of error. So this is an example. Bought goods on credit from Papa for $200. Now the entry was made in Pepe's account. Yes, the names might be similar. You have Papa and Pepe. So instead of recording it in Papa's account, he mistakenly or is assumed that it has been accidentally been recorded in Pepe's account. Yeah, so both goes on credit from Papa for such an amount, and the book was wrongly recorded in Pepe's account. But you know that our double entry principle here, we have the purchase account, it has to be debited in the name of Pepe, and Pepe account has to also be credited in the name of purchase. So this is the error here. Now how do we rectify the error? So we finally open Papa's account and we credit Papa's account in the name of Pepe, and we also debit Pepe's account in the name of Papa. It won't in any way affect the trial balance. Now let's go to another type of error, which is errors of complete reversal of entries. When we say errors of complete reversal of entries, this is where when an entry is debited instead of being credited, or credited instead of being debited. Yes, the correct amount has been posted to the correct account but on the wrong side. So let's solve one or two examples under this type of error and get to know the deep insights of this wonderful lesson. An example: a cash sale of $200 has been debited to sales and credited to bank. This is a perfect example of a complete reversal of entry. In this case, the sales account has to be credited with the $200, and the bank account has to be debited in the normal situation. But this is where it has been credited to the bank, and the sales account has been debited. This is an illustration of the above problem being solved. So now the sale account has been debited with the bank or the cash, whereby the bank has been credited with the sales. Instead of presenting it this way, whereby the bank account has a debit balance of the against the sales, and the sales has a credit balance against the bank. Yeah, another intriguing problem is paid creditors with cash of 1,000 cedis on 24th March. Now, when we want to commit the error of complete reversal entry, here we will know that every cash has a debit balance, and creditors would definitely have the credit balance. In which case, or in the normal case, this is what comes in mind. But if it comes in mind It is a totally complete reversal, entry. It's an error. The correct, transaction should be this. You have to debit the creditor's balance because the cash has been paid to the creditors. So the moment you debit the creditors balance who is receiving, then the cash has to get a corresponding credit entry. So this is the normal thing which comes in mind when you meet a problem like this. We always want to credit the cash account in the name of creditors and debit. We always want to. So what comes in mind? Every cash has a debit balance and every creditor has a credit balance. But in this situation, that is not the case. The correct thing should be done here is, since cash is being paid to the creditors are rather receiving, so they have to have a balance, which is a debit balance of cash against, and the cash account has to get a credit balance.
I hope the class was interesting. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment section or send us an email. We will love to help you further. See you in the next class.